Have you noticed something strange happening lately? More and more people seem to be pulling away from the daily drama of the world. They're not watching the news anymore. They don't get upset about politics. They barely even care about the latest social media trends. At first glance, you might think these people have become cold or stopped caring about the world. But here's the fascinating truth. They haven't become cold at all. They've actually moved up to a higher level of living. Think about someone you know who used to be very involved in world events, always posting online, always worried about the latest crisis. Then suddenly they changed. They became calmer, more peaceful, and stopped getting caught up in the chaos. This isn't a coincidence. This person has experienced what I call a life upgrade. And today, I'm going to reveal the 3 major upgrades that completely transform how you see the world. These upgrades are like invisible steps that some people are climbing right now. And once you understand them, you'll start noticing them everywhere. You'll see why some people seem so different, why they're not worried about things that used to keep them up at night, and why they have this strange sense of peace even when everything around them seems crazy. What I'm about to share with you isn't just interesting information. It's crucial for understanding what's happening in your own life right now. Many people are feeling a pull to change, feeling like they don't fit in anymore, or wondering why they're losing interest in things they used to care about deeply. If you've been feeling this way, you're not going crazy. You're not becoming antisocial. You might actually be going through one of these life upgrades without even knowing it. Think about how much time and energy you spend worrying about global events, scrolling through endless bad news, or trying to keep up with every crisis that pops up on your screen. Now imagine being free from all that heaviness. Imagine understanding exactly why you're changing and where you're heading. That's what these 3 upgrades will show you. This knowledge is especially important now because we're in a time when more people than ever are going through these upgrades. Some are fighting against it, trying to stay at level 1 because it feels familiar. Others are embracing it, but feeling confused about what's happening to them. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly where you are in this journey and what to expect next. Before we dive into the 3 specific upgrades, let's understand what a life upgrade actually is. Think of your life like a video game. When you start a video game, you begin at level 1 with basic abilities. You can move around, you can see what's right in front of you, and you can interact with the simple things in your environment. That's where most people are in life, level 1 consciousness. But just like in a video game, there are higher levels waiting to be unlocked. Each time you move up a level, you gain new abilities. You start seeing things you couldn't see before. The game becomes easier because you understand it better. Life upgrades work exactly the same way. Each upgrade gives you a new way of seeing the world, new understanding, and most importantly, new freedom from things that used to bother you. These upgrades don't happen because you study them or try to force them. They happen naturally when you're ready, when your consciousness has grown enough to handle the next level. It's like a flower blooming. You can't force it open, but you can understand the process and create the right conditions for growth. Think about how a baby learns to walk. First, they crawl, then they stand, then they take their first steps. You can't force a baby to skip crawling and go straight to running. In the same way, these life upgrades happen in a natural order. Each one builds on the one before it. Each one requires you to let go of old ways of thinking and embrace new understanding. The really interesting thing about these upgrades is that they're happening whether you know about them or not. Right now, millions of people around the world are going through these upgrades without realizing it. They just know they feel different. They know they're changing. They might even be fighting against these changes because they don't understand them. That's why this information is so important right now. When you understand the upgrade process, you stop fighting it. You stop thinking something's wrong with you. Instead, you can work with these natural changes and make them easier on yourself. You can recognize the signs that you're ready for the next level, and you can help others understand what they're going through too. As we go through each upgrade, you might recognize where you are in this process. You might suddenly understand why you've been feeling certain ways or why your interests have been changing. Some of you might realize you're already in the middle of an upgrade right now. Others might see that you're just starting to feel the pull toward your next level. Remember, There's no rush to reach the highest level. Every level serves a purpose, and everyone moves at their own perfect pace. What's important is understanding the process so you can flow with it instead of fighting against it. Think of it like riding a wave. You can either fight against the current and exhaust yourself, or you can learn to surf and let the wave carry you forward. In the past, this kind of growth usually happened slowly, over many years or even lifetimes. But right now, we're in a special time when these upgrades are happening faster than ever before. It's like the whole world is speeding up and people are evolving more quickly than at any other time in history. That's why so many people are feeling these changes all at once. The upgrades we're going to talk about aren't small changes. They're complete transformations in how you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you live your daily life. Each upgrade brings more peace, more understanding, and more freedom. But they can also bring challenges, especially if you don't understand what's happening. Some people going through these upgrades think they're losing their mind because suddenly nothing interests them like it used to. Others worry they're becoming cold or uncaring because they stop reacting to things that used to upset them. And many people feel lonely because they can't relate to their old friends anymore. But here's the beautiful truth. None of these experiences mean anything is wrong. They're all natural parts of the upgrade process. They're signs that you're growing, expanding, and moving to a new level of consciousness. And once you understand these three major upgrades, you'll never again have to wonder if something's wrong with you just because you're changing. The most important thing to understand about these upgrades is that they're not about becoming better than other people. They're about becoming more of who you really are. Each upgrade removes another layer of artificial programming and brings you closer to your true self. It's like cleaning a window. The window was always clear, but it had layers of dust blocking the view. Each upgrade cleans away another layer of dust until you can see clearly. As we explore these three upgrades, pay attention to which parts feel familiar to you. Notice which experiences you've already had and which ones still lie ahead. This understanding will become your map for the journey you're on. It will help you make sense of the changes you're experiencing and show you what to expect next. Most importantly, this knowledge will help you trust the process you're going through. When you understand these upgrades, you'll stop trying to hold on to old ways of being that no longer serve you. You'll recognize the signs that you're ready for the next level, and you'll know how to handle the challenges that come with each new stage of growth. The first major life upgrade is what I call the awakening, and it usually starts with a feeling of unease. You might wake up one morning and feel like something isn't quite right with the world you've always known. It's like you've been watching a play your whole life, and suddenly you can see the strings holding up the props. This is where your journey really begins. During this first upgrade, you start seeing through the daily illusions that most people take for granted. Remember how you used to get so upset about your favorite sports team losing? Or how you'd spend hours worrying about what people thought about your social media posts? As this upgrade happens, these things start feeling strangely empty. It's not that you become negative about them. You just see them for what they are, games within a bigger game. The most noticeable change in this first upgrade is how you react to information. Before, you might have believed everything you saw on the news or heard from authority figures. But now, you develop a kind of inner radar that helps you sense what's true and what's manipulation. You start noticing patterns in how information is presented to create fear or control people's thoughts. Instead of getting caught up in the latest crisis, you step back and see the bigger picture. Your relationships start changing too. You might notice that some conversations feel shallow now. When friends get worked up about the latest trend or scandal, you find yourself wondering why it matters so much. You still care about your friends, but you stop getting pulled into drama that once seemed so important. It's like watching children argue about their toys. You remember when those arguments felt serious, but now you see them differently. One of the clearest signs that you're going through this first upgrade is a change in what you enjoy. Things that used to excite you might start feeling empty. Shopping sprees don't give you the same thrill. Getting likes on social media doesn't feel as rewarding. Instead, you start craving deeper experiences. You might find yourself drawn to nature, wanting to spend more time in silence. or feeling curious about spiritual topics you never cared about before. Your priorities shift dramatically during this upgrade. Making more money or gaining status starts feeling less important than finding inner peace and genuine connections. You begin to see how many people are caught in an endless chase for more money, more things, more recognition, while never feeling satisfied. As you go through this upgrade, you naturally step out of this race without even trying. The second upgrade is where things get really interesting. I call it the freedom shift because this is where you break free from invisible chains you never knew you were wearing. Remember how the first upgrade helped you see through illusions? This second upgrade gives you the courage to actually live differently based on what you've learned. During this phase, you stop caring about fitting in with society's expectations. It's not a rebellious thing. You just naturally start living more authentically. If your job doesn't align with your values, you might change careers without fear. If certain relationships are draining your energy, you might let them go peacefully. You're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You're just following your inner truth. One of the biggest changes in this upgrade is your relationship with time. You stop feeling rushed and stressed about the future. The constant pressure to achieve more and be more starts falling away. Instead, you develop a deep trust in life's timing. You realize that forcing things usually makes them harder, while flowing with life's natural rhythm brings easier solutions. Your energy changes noticeably during this upgrade. You stop getting pulled into other people's emotional storms. When someone is upset or angry, you can stay calm and centered. It's not that you become cold. Actually, you become more compassionate. But you realize that getting emotionally tangled with others doesn't help them or you. You learn to be supportive without absorbing their energy. Making decisions becomes easier in this phase. Instead of overthinking everything and asking everyone's opinion, you start trusting your inner guidance. You develop a strong sense of what's right for you, and you follow it even when it doesn't make sense to others. This inner knowing becomes stronger than any external advice or social pressure. The way you handle problems changes too. Instead of reacting immediately or trying to control everything, you learn to step back and let solutions emerge naturally. You discover that many problems solve themselves when you stop interfering. And the challenges that do need your attention become clearer and easier to handle because you're not clouded by fear or anxiety anymore. The third upgrade is what I call the peace dimension, and this is where the biggest transformation happens. This is when you truly understand why highly evolved people lose interest in global affairs. It's not because they don't care. It's because they see everything from a much higher perspective. In this upgrade, what others call bad news or crisis looks completely different to you. You see how every challenge is actually moving humanity forward, even when it looks messy on the surface. It's like watching waves in the ocean. While others focus on each crashing wave, you see the entire ocean and understand that the waves are just temporary movements on the surface. Your understanding of time expands dramatically in this phase. You stop seeing events as isolated incidents and start recognizing the larger cycles they're part of. History stops being a series of random events and becomes a beautiful pattern of growth and evolution. You see how everything is connected and moving together in perfect harmony, even when it looks like chaos. This is when you truly understand why fighting against what's happening never brings peace. You see that resistance creates more of what you're resisting. Instead of trying to fight what you don't like in the world, you focus on creating and nurturing what you want to see more of. Your energy shifts from protest to creation. During this upgrade, you develop a deep sense of trust in the universe that most people can't understand. While others are panicking about the future, you feel a profound peace knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This isn't blind optimism. It's a direct knowing that comes from seeing the bigger picture. Your impact on others changes too. Without trying to change anyone, you naturally help others find peace just by being yourself. Your presence becomes calming and uplifting to people around you. They might not know why they feel better when they're near you. They just do. You become like a quiet lighthouse, helping others find their way without saying a word. The most beautiful part of this upgrade is how it changes your experience of love. Your heart opens in ways you never imagined possible. You start feeling connected to everything and everyone, even people who seem very different from you. You understand that all the separation we see is just an illusion, and underneath everything, we're all part of one big family. This is also when you understand why spiritual teachers talk about being in the world but not of it. You can still participate in daily life, but you're not caught up in it anymore. You can enjoy things without being attached to them. You can care about others without trying to fix them. You can work toward goals without being stressed about the outcome. Let's get practical about how to actually work with your shadow. Think of this like learning to dance with a partner you've been avoiding. It takes time, patience, and gentle practice. You don't have to dive into the deep end right away. Instead, start with small, manageable steps that feel safe. Begin with something simple. Notice your triggers. When someone does something that really gets under your skin, pause for a moment. Instead of reacting, ask yourself, what is this strong reaction telling me about myself? Maybe that person who seems full of themselves is showing you where you hold yourself back. Or that friend whose neediness annoys you might be reflecting your own unexpressed needs for connection. Journaling becomes your best friend in this work. But this isn't your typical Dear Diary writing. Try this. At the end of each day, write down one thing you judged in someone else. Then, gently ask yourself, where do I do this same thing? Or what about this threatens me? Be really honest with yourself. Remember, no one else needs to see this. Your emotions are like trail markers on this journey. When you feel shame, guilt, or anger, don't push these feelings away. Instead, get curious about them. Ask them, what are you trying to protect me from? Or what do you need me to know? It's like having a conversation with parts of yourself you've been ignoring. Create a safe space for shadow work. Maybe a quiet corner in your home or a peaceful spot in nature. This becomes your laboratory for self-discovery. Here, you can practice saying the things you never let yourself say, feeling the feelings you usually push down. Remember, acknowledging these parts of yourself doesn't mean acting on them. It's about understanding them. Now let's talk about the roadblocks you might hit, because they're going to come up, and that's completely normal. One of the biggest fears people face is, if I accept my shadow, will I become a bad person? Think about it like this. Accepting that you sometimes feel angry doesn't make you violent. It actually helps you handle anger more responsibly. You might feel overwhelmed when you start this work. That's natural. You're meeting parts of yourself that you've spent years avoiding. Take it slow. You don't have to process everything at once. If you start feeling too overwhelmed, step back and focus on something small and manageable. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Another common challenge is not knowing where to start. Maybe you feel like you're fumbling in the dark, not sure what to look at first. Start with what's right in front of you. That personality trait in others that really bothers you. That emotion you're most afraid of feeling. That pattern in relationships that keeps repeating itself. These are all doorways into shadow work. You might also face resistance from others. Not everyone will understand why you're doing this work. Some might even try to pull you back into old patterns. This is where having a support system becomes crucial. Find people who support your journey to authenticity, whether that's friends, family, or a professional guide. Integration is where the magic happens. It's how we take all these insights and turn them into real change. Start each day with a simple check-in. Ask yourself, what parts of me am I trying to hide today? Just acknowledging these parts begins to change your relationship with them. Create simple rituals that help you stay connected to your whole self. Maybe it's taking a few minutes each morning to write down your unfiltered thoughts, or setting aside time each week for deeper reflection. Some people find it helpful to give their shadow a voice through art, movement, or music. Any form of expression that feels natural to you. Practice self-compassion as you do this work. When you catch yourself judging or rejecting parts of yourself, pause and try to respond with understanding instead. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to accept this part of me, just for this moment? You might be surprised at how much relief this brings. Work with your body too. Our shadows often show up in physical tension, chronic pain, or unexplained discomfort. Simple practices like mindful breathing, gentle movement, or even just placing a hand on any area of tension can help integrate these shadow aspects. The journey of embracing your shadow isn't about reaching a final destination. It's about ongoing growth and discovery. Each time you acknowledge and accept a part of yourself you've been hiding, you become more whole, more authentic, and paradoxically, more capable of positive change. Remember, your shadow isn't your enemy. It's a misunderstood part of yourself waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. When you make peace with all parts of yourself, you access a kind of strength that comes only from wholeness. You stop fighting yourself and start working with all aspects of who you are. This journey might not always be easy, but it's incredibly worthwhile. As you continue to work with your shadow, you'll likely find that what you once thought were your greatest weaknesses become your most profound sources of wisdom and strength. You'll develop deeper, more authentic relationships, feel more energized, and experience a new sense of freedom in being exactly who you are. We're all on this journey together, learning to embrace our whole selves, shadows and all. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember that every step towards self-acceptance, no matter how tiny, is progress. Your shadow isn't something to be fixed or eliminated. It's part of what makes you uniquely you. Share in the comments below one aspect of yourself that you're learning to accept. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to start their own journey of self-discovery. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe for more content about personal growth and self-understanding. Remember, the path to wholeness isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentically, completely you.